Tourism Director Karen Bevan sued Prime Minister John Briceño with Dana Barrow as her attorney. You'll hear the advice that Briceño's legal advisor has for her tonight. And Amelin Mendez, UDP insider turns PUP CEO or political double agent, plays both sides. Today, her former boss, Patrick Faber, said she's red. Also, what happened to Dr. Manza? He's got COVID, but is he also being pushed out of the DHS office? Plus, Sister B, Denise Barrow, she missed another big UDP event today. We asked the party leader if they have beef. Also, Patrick Faber names a UDP shadow cabinet, but lots of familiar faces are missing. Is he purging the UDP? And the dream is real. We'll take you to Blue Creek to see cattle exports to Mexico. We've got details of these and other stories in our newscast for tonight, Wednesday, December 9th, 2020. Good evening. With your news, I'm Indira Craig.
Twas the weeks before Christmas, and all through the store, all the family was preparing for what was in store. Preparations being made, decorations being hung. Everyone did their part to ready the best deals in town, because at Brothers Habet, it's that time of year where the colors of the rainbow are ours to share. Yes, Berger, Valspar, Domestic, and Penta, all month discounted by 15%. And not just that, so please don't forget, we have deals on much more in the store, you bet. Power tools, tiles, Westinghouse light fixtures, and a whole clearance section, my brothers and sisters. Plus our annual 12 Days of Christmas promotion. Win $500 gift certificates for your devotion. So come to Brothers Habet and Habet too. Wishing a Merry Christmas from all of we to you.
GOB employees, make this Christmas one to remember with a no-hassle loan from QuickStop. Starting November 20th, all first-time customers automatically qualify for a $500 cash advance. Returning customers get double their last loan offer. Visit your nearest QuickStop branch or apply online at quickstoponline.com. QuickStop Personal Finance Center. No hassle loans.
I was born 59 years ago in the same house where I'm living right now. My father was an agent for Region Insurance, so I took over in 1984. What I noticed later when my dad moved, we find a paper that his dad in Manitoba, Canada was insurance agent as well. So it's my grandfather and then my father, and now I'm doing it for 36 years, so that's the history of that. And I take care of the office with my wife together. So you have quilts for sale here in the office as well. So when customers come for insurance, they can see the quilts. Me and my sons have a farming company. It's called Heartland Acres, and two companies that run in the same office. I know I have customers for the last 30 years, but once there's an accident, it's RF&G, they feel like relaxed. I'm proud to say that RF&G has the right word sentence on the logo. It says it pays to get it right, and we have good service of paying claims. I am your neighbor, I am your friend, I am your RF&G insurance agent.
Find your nearest RF&G agent on our website at rfginsuranceBelize.com, where it pays to get it right.
For hydration, when the choice is yours, choose the brand you have always trusted. Crystal Water. Taste you can trust.
On March 11th, the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a pandemic. A pandemic means the virus is everywhere, but it might not be everywhere at the same time. If there are no cases in your area, it does not mean that there will never be cases in your area. Here's what you can do to delay the spread of COVID-19 in your community. Stay home unless it's absolutely necessary for you to go out. Practice physical distancing when you leave home. Wash your hands frequently using soap and water for at least 40 seconds or use alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Avoid contact with anyone who has fever, cough and cold, or flu-like symptoms. Obey quarantine, isolation, and curfew rules. Clean and disinfect frequently touched surfaces such as doorknobs, counters, phones, and tablets. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth without first washing your hands. Help keep Belize safe.
Ray, what's wrong? It's him. He hit me again. Oh my gosh. This time it was worse. He slammed my face in the wall and threatened to kill me. If you or someone you know is experiencing family violence, call 0800-WAY-OUT. Or you can text or WhatsApp to 672-9628. This message is brought to you by the National Women's Commission, with funding from Be Engender and Spotlight Projects.
Have you been a victim of gender-based violence and were dissatisfied with the service received from the department you visited? The National Women's Commission developed a complaint form which addresses the concerns of victims of gender-based violence who felt that they were not treated professionally by the police, healthcare professionals, social service institutions, or other relevant sectors. The form is filled out by the victim or another person on his or her behalf. The form should be placed in the box provided at the designated office in your district. These forms are self-addressed, so they can also be folded, stapled, and mailed to the address on the form, free of cost, by any post office countrywide. Your information will be held in the strictest confidence. You will be able to fill out the form online, which will be on the National Women's Commission website. After the form has been sent, an internal investigation will be conducted by the relevant department, and you will be notified of the changes made as a result of your complaint. The victim's complaint mechanism will be rolled out in all districts. This message is brought to you by the National Women's Commission, with funding from Engender and Spotlight Projects and support from the Department of Youth Services.
In a week, Prime Minister John Briceño may be seeing a notice of a lawsuit from former PM Dean Barrow. That's because last week, Dean Barrow sent Briceño a letter of complaint on behalf of his client, Karen Bevans. In the letter, Barrow said that PM Briceño defamed his client in an interview given to Love FM and Love TV, who also received a similar letter. The letter also said that Barrow was giving Briceño 2 weeks to retract the statement and issue an apology, or else he would file a suit against the PM. Well, today the media asked Briceño's very close ally, attorney Eamon Courtney, if he would be representing the PM, that is, if the case does go to court. Courtney's reply was only 14 seconds long and sounded more like a warning to Bevans.
I hope Ms. Bevans won't sue the Prime Minister. That would be a sad mistake. Think about it. $1.25 million and you want to sue the Prime Minister? Let's not get it twisted too early in the day.
And in other politically dicey news, Amelin Mendez, the recently named CEO in the Ministry of Economic Development, is another developing story. As we told you, she was known as a UDP political insider involved in the party at the policy level, while also being a senior project officer within Patrick Faber's Ministry of Education. And that's why we know that this week, many in the PUP have been pushing for her to be sent home and replaced with a loyalist to the blue side. Today, we had a chance to find out more about Mendez and the UDP when the opposition held its first press conference under Faber's leadership. We asked him about his former senior project officer.
Would you speak about a former senior project manager in your former ministry, the Ministry of Education, Amelin Mendez, and she was, I have seen pictures of her engaged with the UDP Now women's group, I believe it is. I'm told she had input even in the manifesto perhaps. What do you make of her ascension as a very senior CEO in the PUP, in the Prime Minister's office. Was she some sort of double agent within the UDP?
Amelin Mendez is a UDP. I think it shows tremendous goodwill on the part of the Prime Minister to appoint a UDP CEO. I don't think that sat very well with his government. I'm told that there are people who are kicking over in the party. But yes, she's a member of the UDP now. Yes, she has worked in this party. And yes, he called me and he said, they are offering this position to her as the party leader. What do you think? And I said that nobody in this party is going to hamper you. We never appoint good PUP steward, Leslie, who is now chief of staff for the Prime Minister, to work in the government and get one government vehicle and a high salary and all of that. You remember?
Right.
So why are you behaving like this is something strange? The Prime Minister knows good talent when he sees it, and good talent is in the UDP.
And while it is left to be seen if CEO Mendes survives the pushback, best information suggests that she may not. And the same uncertain future seems to await DHS Dr. Marvin Manzanero. As we've been reporting, he kind of got pushed to one side after the new government took office. First, he had to clear out of his office to make way for the new senior staff in the ministry. And then, one by one, responsibilities for certain tasks were shifted to new personalities. And now that he's home on sick leave with COVID-19, the doc, well, is being replaced temporarily. Today, his ministry announced the name of the doctor set to act as DHS in his absence. She's Dr. Melissa Diaz-Musa, the former Deputy Regional Manager for the Central Health Region in the Belize district, who has worked with the ministry for over a decade. She leapfrogs 2 Deputy Directors of Health Services to become the Acting Director of Health Services. She is also the sister-in-law of Police Minister Karim Musa. We are told she will be acting DHS for 3 months in the first instances at least. And while the UK-trained Dr. Diaz-Musa's credentials are legit, is Dr. Manza being pushed out the door? At the UDP's press conference today, the leader seemed to think so.
Well, from the very first press conference that the government had, and while there is no official boxing in of Dr. Manza, it would seem that they have their own preferences for professionals. We saw, in fact, in that very first press conference that they basically boxed him out. And we are told now that, in fact, and again, we can only go by what we're hearing, but normally, 9 out of 10 times when we hear these things, they come to light. We're hearing of yet another nepotistic appointment that is about to be made in terms of the DHS, or at least key players in the Ministry of Health. So that was what I said, and in fact, on one of my own personal Facebook posts, I commented that Dr. Manza was, to me, being Fauci. You know, what Trump has done to Dr. Fauci in the US is seemingly being done to Dr. Manza, where they, in fact, criticized all that was in play, which was headed by Dr. Manza. That first press conference by the minister was to say all that was there was rubbish. In fact, there was no plan. That's a slap in the face to Dr. Manza and for his very capable team that held things together for all of those months. Dr. Manza may not be in a position where he is able to speak freely as a public servant. He can't challenge, but we on the outside are seeing what is happening and we speak on his behalf.
The ministry, in its press release announcing the appointment, did say, quote, "Wish Dr. Manzanero a safe and speedy recovery." Manzanero said in a Facebook post that he had minor symptoms last week and has not updated since. Opposition leader Fava held a press conference to name his shadow cabinet, which will trace and comment on the actions of the real cabinet ministers. It's a group of 15, more notable for the names that got left off the list. Names such as Saldiva, Contreras, Montero, Castro, Marin and Heredia, veteran UDPs who lost big in the last election. Fava says his party got the memo from the electorate.
We tried to listen to what message the people sent on election day. They said, listen, we want a party that is vibrant, we want a party that is energized, we want to see some fresh new faces. We want greater ideas from you. As a party, there are things that you need to put in check. There are things that you need to rework, to re-engage. And that is what we've done. And I will say this on the public stage this afternoon. Rebuilding this party is not going to be an easy task. In fact, as we move forward, there are some who, of course, may not be happy about some of the decisions that we make, but everybody is not going to be happy. And you notice that there is a mix of the old and the new. That is the formula by which we will rebuild this party. It would be ridiculous of us in the leadership of this party to just decide to throw everything away. That is what some would want. But I'm not there. I want to make sure that we pull from everywhere to make this party as strong as it can be. And that is really the formula, the recipe that we use to put together these names. Will they later on be candidates for this party? Some of them, I hope so. Some of them have absolutely no interest in doing so.
And while the list of 15 includes some new faces and almost exclusively former loyalists, as we said, a lot of former generals aren't there. The press asked about those omissions today.
In your list of shadow cabinet members, I didn't hear certain names. John Soliver, Rene Montero, Mr. Boots Martinez, former Minister Castro, and perhaps a couple other names. Are we to take it that these stalwarts, these long-time supporting UDP members are being retired or are retiring from membership, are retiring from politics? Why is it that they are not being given positions in this cabinet, shadow cabinet?
The simple reason to that, Paul, is that we listen to people. We want to give a fresh impression of the party. We want to say to people, listen, our spread is much wider than those faces that you know. If people said to us, listen, we want to see something different, but we are about pushing ahead with a new agenda. This party has enjoyed tremendous success up until the point of November 11th. And so it is time now for us to find new feet, for us to find something new. And that is why we did what we did in terms of the shadow cabinet, embracing some of what was with some of what is to come. The UDP will not be accused of entertaining anybody or anything that is bad. And I'm not saying any of them are bad, but we are on a forward path to change this party's image, and anybody who is weighing that down need not be a part of it.
And one elected UDP representative whose name is not on the list is Denise Sisterby Barrow. She's not named on the list of shadow ministers, even though she is an elected representative, one of only 5. Seems suspicious, but Father explained.
Sister B, as we affectionately call her, has indicated that she will focus her energy on representing the people of Queen Square, which we know she can do very capably. And in fact, she wants to focus on that, and so she has asked us to excuse her from any of the duties of the shadow cabinet, and that we can count on her full support. So we will not be mentioning Sister B in the shadow cabinet, but she is a dedicated member of this party.
So is there some specific issue between Sister B and her party leader, where she just won't come out once he's around? Well, we asked about a few specific instances.
On the subject of Sister B, 3 events. 1, she did not attend, and I'm reliably informed, did not vote at the convention, at the July 2020 convention where you were elected leader. 2nd, she did not appear at your swearing in. And 3rd, she is not at the head table this afternoon. it is well known, or at least well known in certain circles, that Sister B has not been an ardent supporter of yours. Is the antipathy between you all, or from her to you, is that symptomatic of a fundamental rift, and very early on, that even after such a overwhelming defeat, the UDP is unable to live up to its name and is unable to unite?
You know Sister B, you have engaged with her for many, many years. You know she's not the type who comes publicly. Not going to my swearing in as leader of the opposition, it wasn't a crime, or wasn't an act to say I don't support the new leader. That's not the case at all. In fact, I'll have you know it's just the opposite. I have had conversations with Sister B where she has said, party leader, I want to focus on Queen Square. No expect me to get up and do a lot of talking and appear at a press conference and a lot of meeting and all upon that. I am about doing me. That is what she said, and you know that I am telling the truth because you know Sister B. All Belize know Sister B. And I promise you that Sister B is going to be there on Friday for the swearing in. We've not put her on the shadow cabinet list because she said, party leader, that's not me. But when it comes to constituency issues, when it comes to me being out there every day making sure my constituents live a better lifestyle, that's not me. That's what she said. And don't put me in a position in somewhere where I don't feel comfortable. You know, this is what, you don't only tell me, you tell all I know every time you try interview her. So I would really appreciate you all stop the conspiracy theory.
And so while Sister B wasn't at the front table, 8 others were, and they include the UDP's 3 senator nominees. They are returning Senator Mike Perifete and Aldo Salazar, joined by new face Sheena Pitts. 3 attorneys, but one of them, Senator Salazar, is just a placeholder. He will depart in March to make way for a former mayor once he finishes serving his term in Belmopan. That's Khalid Belize, the Faber, and Faber was gushing about the personality who seems to be the new favorite politician from Belmopan.
It is our intention at a later date, by March I believe, to make a change in this appointment, or these appointments, and to appoint at a later time in March, thereabouts, Mr. Khalid Belize, who is not able to take on the appointment today as he is the current mayor of Belmopan. Khalid will finish his duties as mayor, and upon finishing those duties, I will advise the Governor General of the change. He is an outspoken, articulate, bright, shining star of the United Democratic Party, and we will be very pleased to have him as a senator later on after he completes his tour of duty.
And while Belial's appointment may ruffle some feathers, Faber clearly wants to set an agenda early on as a strong leader with a clear vision, as you heard in his earlier remarks. And while he's ready to ward off the demons of the UDP's past, what about the PUP?
We see already where there are so many things going wrong so very early with the current administration. And it would seem to me that they are already saying, well, it is the UDP's fault. Well, I will always be the first to remind our friends on the government side of the House that in fact, that is why the people made a change. The food pantry, grocery bag, call it what you will, but give it back to the people who are so deserving of it at this time. When we see these things happening right in front of our faces, don't expect this opposition to be silent on these matters. It is in fact our duty to make it known that these things ought not to be happening. We will be on you. We will ensure that we side with those who are standing for righteousness. Don't tell me about the sins of the UDP in the past. This is now a party under new management, and we will do our job and do it well to build back the confidence and the trust of the people and at the same time, of course, keep the government in check.
And Faba also takes the blame for the UDP's big loss on November 11th. In a sense, he has to, but he owned it today.
Mr. Faba, you led the UDP to its worst defeat in history. They got 38.34% of the vote. Even Manuel Esquivel in 1998, at that time they got 39.15% of the vote. So you were the leader. Ultimately, it falls on you. How do you answer that you, under your leadership, the UDP experienced the worst loss of any major mass party in Belize's history? And my follow-up is, how much of that is the fault of your predecessor?
Listen, I'd prefer, the party had a bad loss. Yes, that is true. And that was very evident from the results. But rather than dwell on the loss, watch me fix it. Watch me develop this party into one of the most winning machines that we've ever seen. The judgment that I want people to put on me is what I am able to do. You see, because if we may win better with half of the members of the House or one less than half, may I say, well, the borough give the man that, that's why the man win. Well, what I have inherited, it is clear. If you want to put it on me, fine. I'm not into the business of pointing fingers. But watch what will come out. When this phoenix rises, you will see the beauty of the United Democratic Party.
And while he took the blame, Faba concedes corruption was a problem in the last Barrow administration. And internally, there were problems.
A part of what happened to our party is that there were elements of corruption. And you can expect from us denouncing any such actions once it comes to light. This is a different party, so if indeed that happened, the people sent us a message, you can expect from us clear pronouncements on what was wrong if indeed it happened, but until we are in a position to do that, I am not going to go there. But if things happen that were not supposed to happen, don't expect us to defend it. Even in the inside, we don't want to tell tales out of school, but even on the inside of the party, there were those of us who felt differently, who felt that there were quite a few acts of corruption. And I am telling you now that if those come out very glaringly and blatantly and we see, don't expect any defense. Because this is why the people voted us out. We are going to ensure that those elements of bad that were in the United Democratic Party will no longer be. And I don't say that to say anybody will be put out of this party. That's not what we're about. We need everybody's inclusion. But if your agenda was bad, the UDP's agenda, as I understood it from the time I got into this party, but I especially understand it now as I lead this party, is to do good for the citizenry of this country. And if what it is you intend to do does not line up with doing well in this country, then you can take your leave.
Take your leave, but don't leave this news behind, because when we come back, we'll take you to Blue Creek to see cattle going over to Mexico. We'll tell you what it means for the economy. Don't go away.
Electricity is an essential part of our daily lives. We use lights and household appliances every day. Therefore, we must ensure our homes are wired properly. At Benny's, we have certified wires with the right gauges and insulation. BEL certified meter sockets, authentic GE and Square D panel boxes and breakers, which protect your electrical system from being overloaded. When wiring your home, avoid imitation brands which can be very dangerous. Give yourself and your family peace of mind using genuine electrical products available at Benny's. Quality and savings.
Delicate, the beer of Belize.
I was born 59 years ago in the same house where I'm living right now. My father was an agent for Region Insurance, so I took over in 1984. What I noticed later when my dad moved, we find a paper that his dad in Manitoba, Canada was insurance agent as well. So it's my grandfather and then my father, and now I'm doing it for 36 years, so that's the history of that. And I take care of the office with my wife together. So you have quilts for sale here in the office as well. So when customers come for insurance, they can see the quilts. Me and my sons have a farming company. It's called Heartland Acres, and 2 companies that run in the same office. I know I have customers for the last 30 years, but once there's an accident in RFG, they feel like relaxed. I'm proud to say that RFG has the right word sentence on the logo. It says it pays to get it right, and we have good service of paying claims. I am your neighbor, I am your friend, I am your RFG insurance agent.
Find your nearest RF&G agent on our website at rfginsuranceBelize.com, where it pays to get it right.
Is here. You now have the power at your fingertips to access all your account information, including energy use. The BEL 24/7 app allows you to view monthly bills, calculate your own bill, set reminders, view a collection agent near you, and pay online. Also, receive all updates on power outage affecting your area. Download the BEL 24/7 app from Google Play or the Apple App Store today.
Everyone is at risk of catching COVID-19, so it's important to quickly recognize signs and symptoms of the infection. The most common symptoms are fever, dry cough, and tiredness or fatigue. Some people may also have sore throat, aches and pains, stuffy nose, or diarrhea. But a few people have also reported pink eye or conjunctivitis, headache, loss of taste or smell, a rash on skin or change in the color of fingers or toes. Emergency warning signs that require immediate medical attention are extreme difficulty breathing, severe constant pain or pressure in the chest, becoming confused, unable to talk or move, bluish lips, face, fingers, or toes. For more information, call 0800 MOHCARE. Help keep Belize safe.
Stay safe and submit your sickness benefit claim form electronically. Follow these 4 steps. Step 1. Obtain your medical certificate. At consultation, the doctor certifies your days of illness and provides you with a medical certificate. Step 2. Fill out your sickness benefit form. Complete all the fields in parts 1 to 4 on the front page of the sickness benefit form. Step 3. Request your salaries record form. Contact your employer for your salaries record form. Step 4. Submit your sickness benefit claim form. Scan or take a clear picture of the sickness benefit form, salaries record, and proof of bank account. Email the documents to claims@socialsecurity.org.bz within 14 days. You will receive an email reply confirming receipt of your claim. After the submission of all documents, your claim is processed for payment to your account. For any COVID-related illnesses, contact the Ministry of Health for further guidance. Social Security Board, safeguarding you, your family, your future.
Have a holly jolly Christmas this December with NextGen. Contact us today to sign up for free service installation or reconnection and receive 1 month free on your acquired service. Celebrate the spirit of the season by entering our grand raffle. This month, new and existing customers can enter a chance to win a 40-inch smart TV or up to 3 months free bundled service with a Debo 3. Visit our office for a chance to win today. Our raffle will be drawn live on the national channel. From our NextGen family to yours, we wish you peace and joy throughout the Christmas season. NextGen, powered by Central TV and Internet.
Cattle farmers across the country can breathe a sigh of relief after over 600 animals were approved for exportation to Mexico. Since election, cows have been going across to Guatemala through an informal back door, but today the Mexican route was official. Courtney Menzies traveled up north where the Ministry of Agriculture and their partners celebrated this achievement.
Approximately 630 cows from Blue Creek are ready to be exported to Mexico over the next few days. It's a huge feat for farmers whose cattle surplus had grown into the thousands with borders being closed for almost 9 months. The new government reinstituted the cattle trade through Guatemala to ease the financial strain they faced. And now, that trade has expanded to include our neighbors in the north. The first shipment of cattle from Blue Creek to Mexico actually occurred back in September under the UDP government. 241 cows were imported by Sucarne, the same company that is responsible for this shipment. But that previous shipment was a one-time deal. According to the Minister of Agriculture, it's a process that could and should have begun long ago, but the previous government opted to wait until the rest of the country was approved for exporting. Now, the new ministry has committed to ensuring that Blue Creek farmers can continue to trade their stock.
This is important, as you know that if you have a product and you have no market for it, then you have no product. So it is important because the marketing link established here today is what all farmers would want in this country. At this time, we have a surplus of livestock. That is even more important for us, for the farmers. We need to do this every single day for the farmers and for the betterment of this country, which is broke and needs foreign exchange as early as possible and as much as possible. So it's very important for us. It has been a long process, a lot of negotiation regarding the animal health aspect. The sweeps, which is essentially the blood testing, we refer to commonly as sweeps, but they had to test every single animal for 2 diseases. That has gone on for, I think, for more than 5 years. It's continued until we have reached this point. I understand that Blue Creek had already been approved for exporting to Mexico, but previous government cabinet decision was to let's wait. We want the entire country to be able to export at the same time. That never happened. It never happened. So when the border closed down in March, then they said, well, let's provide alternative, let Blue Creek start to export. So it's been a long, lengthy process.
While this is a relief for Blue Creek farmers, what about those in other districts? Minnie Garcia from BLPA answered that question and explained why the Orange Walk village was the first to be approved.
Blue Creek is one of the first communities where this cattle sweep started. The pilot project was done here in Blue Creek. Hence, they finished their sweep earlier than the rest of the country. They submitted their epidemiological report, and that's how they got from Mexico. The Senacica approved them as a low prevalence community. That's how they were able to get to export animals for slaughter. Recently, they have received the OK now, or the green light, for the entire district of Orange Walk to be able to move animals for fattening as well as for slaughter. Another requirement from Senacica at the time was to be able to send an epidemiological report for the entire country of Belize, since we had just finished the 5th sweep. Until now, we cannot report any update on Senacica's end as to what happened with the revision of this report, But we're hoping to get good report from Senacica after the revision of this epidemiological report and have the whole country be able to export animals to Mexico.
And with Mexico on board, the ministry is also interested in expanding the trade to other Central American countries.
The Prime Minister has put a lot of emphasis on opening up the Mexican market, not only for livestock but for other products. As you know, we used to sell a lot of aquaculture products into Mexico. They have been hit by disease, but once that comes back, we should try to use the Mexican market again. With respect to Central America, there is a partial scope with Guatemala, which needs to be reinvigorated. And of course, we have spoken to the ambassador of El Salvador and signaled to the El Salvador government that we would like to start an engagement with them. We have had very fruitful discussions with the Secretary General of SICA, the Central American Integration System, and again signaling that Belize is back. Belize is interested in Central America.
Minister Mai said while this is a learning process for everyone involved, he expects that other companies in Mexico will begin showing interest in Belize's cattle industry, and the market will only keep expanding for farmers, an earnest hope after decades of trying to break into this market. Courtney Menzies, 7 News.
Baja was responsible for vetting the animals to ensure that all importation requirements were met. And while the cattle experts are going to Mexico, exports that is, and Mexican shippers coming here, are Mexican shippers coming here for Christmas. As we reported, there is a push for the free zone to open in spite of the COVID realities. Well, cautious critics be damned. It is not too late for that goal to be reached. Today, the Minister of Enterprise, Jose Mai, updated us on the process. We previously reported that Minister Mai met with the management of the free zone, who in turn needed to meet with their members. According to Mai, they are expecting the answer from that meeting today.
Yesterday, I understand that the business community, the businessmen, the chamber and free zone met to decide precisely the plan that we had developed. There's a cost to the plan, so that's what they were discussing yesterday. I'm certain that by now they should have come up with a response if they will buy into the plan and if they will agree to open the free zone. I suspect that they will, that's my belief, but again, it is they who have the decision. But by the end of today, we'll know.
The free zone has been closed for almost 9 months, and it is the ministry's hope that reopening it will allow for foreign exchange and revenue to circulate within of the country. So while the free zone may be ready before Christmas here in Belize, will there be beans available on the domestic market for your Christmas dinner? Well, on our last visit to the Michael Finnegan Market, we brought you several issues that vendors and market goers were facing. One, the price of common vegetables has skyrocketed since the incessant rains had caused many farms to flood, ruining most of the crops. 2, cabbage and carrots were hard to find since there were not enough farmers supplying the vendors, causing the vendors to request that licenses be issued to allow the importation of veggies. 3, there were no red kidney beans in the market, and consumers were concerned that there would be none on their dinner plates at Christmas. Today we got a chance to hear from the Agriculture Minister on these concerns.
You know, we just had 3 weeks of intense rainfall. What was not flooded out was affected by rainfall. Vegetables are susceptible to many of the bacterial diseases, fungal diseases, so we lost much of the vegetables. But that is being imported, of course, managed importation, and that will definitely provide for the market. The 2 vegetables I mentioned, carrots and cabbage, our farmers still have some in the field. It is not in large amounts, therefore the law of supply and demand applies. I mean, when the supply is low, the demand is up, the prices go up. I have no problem in the farmers making an extra buck in difficult times like these. I prefer to see a farmer make an extra buck than a businessman bringing it in from Mexico and Mexico making the extra buck. So we have to give our farmers that privilege, that benefit to get a buck extra for their product. In regards to red kidney beans, when the COVID-19 pandemic hit Belize, there was an inventory at the time that we had enough beans in the country. But I think the government at the time did not realize that some of these beans was already being committed for the export market. So I think farmers had committed those containers for the export market. So they exported the red kidney beans, and now here we are with no beans in the country. But the Belize Marketing Board has been instructed to import red kidney beans. Of course, red kidney beans is scarce throughout the world. We're importing right now from Argentina, from Mexico, from Canada. It's marketing at $1.70 a pound. It is, in my view, it's expensive, but that's the way it is. A lot of supply and demand again. And you will understand that red kidney beans or beans is the cheapest source of protein for Belizeans. For low income, high income, everybody eats beans. So it's important in our diet. I have asked the BMDC to source black beans, which is generally cheaper on the market and everybody can buy. So I think the first containers are supposed to be coming in next week, I think, from Mexico or somewhere like that. But yes, that's important. So there won't be a shortage of red kidney beans and black beans. It will be on the market.
Another industry facing uncertainty is sugar, like the cattlemen, the vegetable farmers. The floods also severely affect sugarcane farmers. It was anticipated that the start of the season may have to be delayed, but the Minister of Agriculture, himself a farmer, today said that things are looking up in terms of this year's crops.
As we speak, I got a text a while ago from the chairman of the Sugar Board, who was telling me that testing seems to be, the results of the test seem to be improving in terms of purity and in terms of bricks. That's a good sign. If we have enough fields out there that have reached majority, then we should be able to begin. I suspect that this year we'll have a bumper crop, so the earlier we begin, the better, so we can get all the sugarcane in. The second limitation we have is the conditions of the sugar roads. They're in horrible condition. Again, my partner and colleague, Honorable Julius Espat, Minister of Works, has his engineers compiling the information and to have that estimate so he can submit to Cabinet for approval. It will be a substantial amount of money, I'm sure, that's required to fix sugar roads. They have been abandoned for so long. So that is the next limitation.
We take a break now. We'll have much more news when we come back. Don't go away.
Electricity is an essential part of our daily lives. We use lights and household appliances every day. Therefore, we must ensure our homes are wired properly. At Benny's, we have certified wires with the right gauges and insulation. BEL certified meter sockets, authentic GE and Square D panel boxes and breakers, which protect your electrical system from being overloaded. When wiring your home, avoid imitation brands which can be very dangerous. Give yourself and your family peace of mind using genuine electrical products available at Benny's. Quality and savings.
Is here. You now have the power at your fingertips to access all your account information, including energy use. The BEL 24/7 app allows you to view monthly bills, calculate your own bill, set reminders, view a collection agent near you, and pay online. Also, receive all updates on power outage affecting your area. Download the BEL 24/7 app from Google Play or the Apple App Store today.
Ray, what's wrong? It's him. He hit me again. Oh my gosh. This time it was worse. He slammed my face in the wall and threatened to kill me. If you or someone you know is experiencing family violence, call 0800 A Way Out. Or you can text or WhatsApp to 672-9628. This message is brought to you by the National Women's Commission, with funding from The Engender and Spotlight Projects.
Have you been a victim of gender-based violence and were dissatisfied with the service received from the department you visited? The National Women's Commission developed a complaint form, which addresses the concerns of victims of gender-based violence who felt that they were not treated professionally by the police, healthcare professionals, social service institutions, or other relevant sectors. The form is filled out by the victim or another person on his or her behalf. The form should be placed in the box provided at the designated office in your district. These forms are self-addressed, so they can also be folded, stapled, and mailed to the address on the form free of cost by any post office countrywide. Your information will be held in the strictest confidence. You will be able to fill out the form online, which will be on the National Women's Commission website. After the form has been sent, an internal investigation will be conducted by the relevant department, and you will be notified of the changes made as a result of your complaint. The victim's complaint mechanism will be rolled out in all districts. This message is brought to you by the National Women's Commission, with funding from Engender and Spotlight Projects and support from the Department of Youth Services.
Contraband is the illegal importation of goods such as alcohol, tobacco, foods, and parts. Apart from breaking the law, smugglers are also now endangering the health of all Belizeans. They risk bringing coronavirus into Belize with their contraband. To keep COVID-19 out of Belize, everyone entering the country is screened and quarantined. But contraband smugglers are not using legal entry points and are bypassing all safety measures. And these same smugglers are moving among the population. They could be carrying the virus. By coming into the country illegally, they could cause outbreaks of COVID-19. Buying or smuggling contraband is putting yourself, your family, and the entire country at risk. Report smuggling. For SMART, call 0800-JUMPERS or 0800-BORDERS. For Digi, 0800-SAVE-BZE. This message is brought to you by the Belize Police Department and the Belize Bank.
Since January 2018, for almost 3 years now, Police Constable Michelle Brown has been on remand for the high-profile murder of 39-year-old Fareed Ahmad. Currently, she's standing trial before Justice Colin Williams and Senior Crown Counsel Shanice Lovell, who has presented evidence in an attempt to convince the court that she shot and killed the well-known barber from Hattieville in the early morning hours of December 28, 2017. But WPC Brown has given sworn testimony in which she claims that another police officer killed Ahmad and that she was threatened to remain quiet about it. Brown, who is being represented by attorneys Simeon Sampson and Anthony Sylvester, was given an opportunity to make a defense against the charge, and she chose to give a statement from the dock. She recounted that on that night, she was hitching a ride to Belmopan. She waited at the roundabout near the Central American Boulevard. That's where Ahmad passed by in his vehicle and offered to give her a ride. She accepted, and while they were on their way, Ahmad engaged her in a conversation about police procedure. She says she attempted to exit Ahmad's vehicle in Hattieville, who allegedly insisted to continue driving her. He allegedly told her that he would make a U-turn up the road. During that process, Brown said that she heard one of the vehicle's back doors open, and she heard the sound of a firearm's safety being disengaged. She claims that a third person, whose voice she recognized as a police officer, entered the back seat. Brown's testimony became emotional at this point, and she claims that the officer spoke up and said, quote, "Da now then," end quote. She claims that the officer pointed the firearm to the back of her head, and she heard the gun snapped twice. The officer allegedly then pointed it at Fareed's head and pulled the trigger. Ahmad allegedly grabbed this assailant's weapon, and that's when the vehicle accelerated. According to Brown, Ahmad let go of the steering wheel, and she grabbed it in an attempt to prevent a crash. Brown said that this supposed killer cop then jumped out of the vehicle after the shooting, and because everything happened so quickly, she only heard when the passenger door was opened. She claims that after she was taken to the hospital, she received a visit from a civilian who threatened that if she said anything, her children would be beheaded. She has identified this officer who allegedly murdered Ahmad, but Senior Crown Counsel Lovell challenged her testimony as a complete fabrication in an intense cross-examination. And then, in a dramatic twist, the prosecution called a surprise witness, Corporal Elmer Nah. This is the police officer who Brown is accusing of shooting Fareed. Nah said that on that night he went home to Coney Drive, where he remained with his uncle, Senior Superintendent Marco Vidal, for the rest of the night. When asked if he had interacted with Brown on the night of Ahmad's death, Nah said the last time he saw Brown was 2 days earlier on Christmas Day. When asked by Senior Counsel Simeon Sampson why would Brown accuse him of shooting Ahmad, Corporal Nah said, "That statement she made, I personally was lost." The case continues tomorrow when the attorneys will be able to address the court about their legal perspectives on the total evidence that has come out in this trial. And now for something much lighter. It's the English sport that somewhat resembles American football, but rugby is much rougher, and it's gaining some popularity across pitches in Belize. On Sunday, for the third time, a National Rugby Sevens team has been formed and is ready to begin preparation for post-COVID regional games. We heard all about the young and talented team from Rugby Football Union founder Tony Gillings, who this afternoon told Cherise Halsal that he plans to take this national team all the way to the Olympics.
You see guys working out on a pitch like this, and you'd think it's football, but it's actually something completely different. It's a rugby workout.
We're very, very lucky in this country. Belize has an incredible amount of talent amongst the youth. And so our team is made up of people that have been training at home and using home gyms and running around the streets and roads and stuff. We've got some really fast runners. We've got some really good ball carriers and ball passers, as well as kickers. And the captain, a guy called Raheem Cummings, He was the captain for the Belize national team that played in El Salvador last year, where we played in a Central American rugby tournament. He's a super, super talented captain, very inspirational. He motivates the guys really well. And in amongst all the other players, they're really good, really young, really strong, really talented.
And Gillings has big plans for this group.
Our path, our development path, is to get a team to go to the Paris Olympics in 2024. It's going to be tough because there's a long road to go to get, there's long qualifications to get there, and rugby in Belize is very young. I mean, we've only been around since 2015, but we're doing very well, and I am super excited because if there's one thing that this country has in abundance, and that is youth, talented, young, fit, healthy youth. And the sad part is that we don't really have enough opportunity for these guys. You know, for a long time, sport has been way, way down on the agenda of anybody. You've only got to look at the state of our stadiums and our sports facilities to see that it's not really been given the priority it needs. So right now, we are hoping to expand rugby. We want to get rugby into schools. We want to get rugby into community groups. We want to be able to say to the youth, listen, there is a sport out there for you to use. It will allow you to use all of your aggression, all your frustrations in life, take them out on the rugby field, get to form teams. It's a fantastic community to get into, and I am super excited with the lads that we've got in this team, but there's always room for more. Rugby is quite a tough sport, and you really want to start rugby players very, very young. So we are hoping to get a junior youth rugby league set up so that the young kids get into it. And they don't do all the really tough physical stuff, but you learn football skills like passing skills, kicking skills, and we do touch rugby. So there's no physical tackling for the youngsters. They just have to run and chase the guy or the girl, because there's girls rugby too, and touch them, and they have to let go of the ball. But the essence of rugby is building camaraderie. It's building a team. It's building friendships. And so if you start them really young, they get into that, and then they can progress to the youth age, to the adult age, and the sport gets tougher physically for them then.
Cherise Halto, 7 News.
Belize boasts 6 rugby teams: the Hopkins Panthers in Hopkins, the Cayo Baymen in San Ignacio, the Belmopan Cavaliers, the Belize City Vikings, the Orange Walk Black Mambas, and the San Pedro Sharks. Tens of thousands lost their job due to COVID-19, mainly in the tourism sector, and today the new unemployment figures were released. Figures from September's labor force survey. It's a biannual survey of 3,000 households from across the country, but this time, because of social distancing, they had to conduct the survey through telephone interviews. The bottom line, the new survey says unemployment is 13.7%. But you have to put a big asterisk next to that relatively low figure. That's because to abide by international standards, the SIB has refined its definition of what it means to be employed, unemployed, and underemployed. And so their results can't be directly compared to previous labor force surveys. Now, if they were using the old methodology, the unemployment rate would be 30%. Here's what one of the SIB's statisticians had to say about the labor force survey's new definitions of what it means to be employed and unemployed.
Employed persons are identified as those who worked for pay or profit for at least 1 hour in the reference week, or had a job but were not at work during the reference week. One of the major changes in classifying the employed persons is the revision of persons working for goods produced for the household use. For example, subsistence farmers who sold a portion of what they produced were previously classified as employed. However, using the refined definition, these farmers would only be classified as employed if they sold majority of what they produced. Toledo District is commonly known for subsistence farmers, and this is a district mostly affected by this refinement in the definition. Another revised key concept is the unemployed. Unemployed persons are those without work, carried out activities to look for work within the last 4 weeks, and were available to start working within the next 2 weeks. In previous labor force surveys, persons were classified as unemployed if they were not working but available to work. The key difference is the refined definition is that all 3 criterion are required to be classified as unemployed. Next, persons must now be actively looking for work within the last 4 weeks. Underemployed persons are a subgroup of the employed population who were previously defined as those working less than 35 hours in the reference week. Under the revised definition, 2 criteria were added. To be considered underemployed, persons must also be wanting to work additional hours and available to work in the next 2 weeks. The concept of informal employment was first introduced in this round of the labor force survey. The unemployment counts using the previous methodology is almost 3 times larger compared to figures using the new definition. Under the previous, more relaxed definition, unemployment levels using the previous definition stand at 29.6% compared to 13.7% using the refined definition in September 2020.
From there, Wendy Benavides went on to discuss some of the trends they picked up on by looking at the group of Belizeans who are eligible to work and those who are actually active in the labor force. They refer to the Belizeans who are legally allowed to work as the working age population. And here's what their September survey revealed about the different groups of employed Belizeans.
In September 2020, the employed persons were approximately 145,455 persons. This represents 86.3% of the labor force. Unemployed persons make up 13.7% of the labor force, or approximately 23,175. Within the employed population, you find a subgroup of persons called the underemployed. These persons usually work less than 35 hours per week and were wanting and available to work additional hours. This group represented 23.6% of all employed persons. Labor force figures by sex show that males accounted for 60% or 101,768 persons. Male participation levels in the labor force continue to be more than their female counterparts. Among age groups, participation of young females was lower compared to other subgroups. The highest levels of participation were seen among males 25 years and older at 74.2%. Preliminary results show that the national unemployment rate stood at 13.7% in September 2020. Belize district recorded the highest level of unemployment at 15.1%. Within this district, previous job holders lost their jobs in administrative and support service activities, accommodation and food service activities, and wholesale and retail trade, and motor vehicle repairs. In contrast, the lowest levels of unemployment were seen in Orange Walk District at 11.1%. The level of joblessness by sex indicates that a share of about 11.6% of males and 17% of females in the labor force were without work, looking and available to work. Women continue to be more prone to be unemployed.
And finishing up on the topic of the survey, the SIB also discussed a few other trends that they noticed when looking at employment by gender and by district.
Moving on to employed labor force, approximately 145,455 held jobs in September 2020. 61.8% were males and 38.2% were females. Persons who completed at least at primary school level continue to account for the largest share of employed persons. Wholesale and retail trade and repairs contributed to the largest shares in employment in all districts except Stand Creek and Toledo, where they were more active in agriculture and related activities. It is noteworthy that the tourism industry, after consistently being the first or second largest employment provider, now falls to rank 5. Most males held jobs in agriculture and related activities, while most females were employed in government services. Of all employed persons, an estimated 60,833 persons, or 41.8%, are in the informal employment. Most informal jobs were in maintenance service activities, food service activities, and construction. On average, persons in informal employment earned about $755 monthly, which was about the same that underemployed persons earned. Persons holding a formal job earned about $1,429 per month, which is $260 above the national average. The number of underemployed persons in September 2020 was estimated at 34,307, or 23.6% of all employed persons. Corozal District experienced the highest levels of underemployment at 34%. Males and females experienced relatively the same levels of underemployment, which was not seen in past surveys.
Another interesting labor study that the SIB conducted was how the COVID-19 pandemic has affected the Belizean labor force from the period of March 2020, when the pandemic's effects were first starting to be felt worldwide, up until August of 2020. Here's what the SIB had to say about how badly the pandemic hit Belizean workers.
I will start with persons not working who lost their job due to COVID-19, which was estimated at 38,909 jobs. 33% of these persons previously worked in the tourism industry, followed by 15% in wholesale and retail trade and repairs, and 12% in community, social, and personal services. About 77% were either sustained by a family member or depended on their own savings. 57.6% of persons who lost their job due to COVID were females. Overall, 28.2% were persons 25 to 34 years. It is important to note that not all persons who lost their jobs due to COVID were classified as unemployed, since about 2/3 lacked the criterion of looking for work. These persons were instead captured as persons out of the labor force. Though the reason these persons did not look for work was not asked in the survey, as a probing technique, interviewers gathered that they were not active job seekers in the reference period in hope of returning to their former job. Moving on to unemployed persons who lost their previous job due to COVID-19, 1 out of 3 jobs were lost in the tourism industry. 51.1% of unemployed persons in the St. Creek district lost their job due to COVID-19 worked in the tourism industry. Among age groups, 31% of unemployed persons who lost their previous job due to COVID-19 were 25 to 34 years. In terms of employed persons, 1 out of every 4 persons received reduced or partial payment from employment. In comparing average hours usually worked, usual hours worked pre-COVID-19 were 43.8 hours per week versus the 37.1 hours worked post-COVID-19. Most employed persons who previously worked in tourism but lost their job due to COVID-19 related reasons are now working in manufacturing. Examples of the industry are making of bread, tortillas, or pastries for sale, and making of clothing.
And so while unemployment is a huge social issue, the major economic issue is the continued contraction of Belize's gross domestic product. It was a sharp downturn in the first and second quarter, and that trend continued in the third quarter when the country's overall economic performance was down by 13.2% when compared to the same period last year.
For the third quarter months of July to September 2020, Belize produced goods and services totaling $578.9 million. This represents a decrease of $87.8 million, or 13.2% when compared to the third quarter of 2019. For the first 9 months of 2020, the country's GDP was estimated at $1,878.5 million. This was a decline of $316.2 million, or 14.4%, from $2,194.7 million in the first 9 months of 2019. This significant decrease in the country's level of production was the result of prolonged dry weather conditions combined with the devastating economic effects of COVID-19. The pandemic was especially detrimental to the services sector during the second and third quarters of the year. If we look at what each sector contributed to the total GDP in the third quarter of 2020, the sector with the largest contribution was the tertiary sector, which accounted for 60.5% of production. The secondary sector accounted for 16%, the primary sector 9.6%, and the remaining 14% was in taxes. Looking specifically at the third quarter GDP at constant prices over a 7-year period, the graph highlights fluctuations in the GDP from 2015 to 2019, followed by a significant 13.2% decline in production in the year 2020. During this period, the tertiary sector declined considerably, overshadowing increased production in both the primary and the secondary sectors. Looking first at the primary sector, output increased to $55.5 million during the third quarter of 2020. This represents growth of 18% or $8.5 million when compared to the third quarter of 2019. Within the primary sector, agriculture, hunting, and forestry grew by 17.7% or $7.5 million, totaling $50 million. The fishing industry also increased by 20.5% during the quarter, as marine exports increased by $0.9 million, totaling $5.5 million.
Belize's primary and secondary sectors performed very well, but the tertiary sector was down by a cumulative 18.6%. And from the economy contracting due to COVID to the latest numbers where sadly the deaths keep adding up tonight. There are 4 more deaths to report, bringing the total number to 183 deaths since March. Here's a clip of the daily report from HECOPAB's Kathleen Azueta-Cho outlining those deaths.
A total of 1,363 samples were tested. Out of this, 506 or 50% of these have resulted positive for COVID-19. There are currently 273 individuals under investigation. Today, we also report that 32 infected persons are hospitalized. Unfortunately, 3 of these individuals are being treated at the intensive care unit. And sadly, there are also 4 new deaths to report. However, we are happy to report that there are 63 new recoveries for today. As we move forward with the expansion of testing using rapid tests and reports coming in from the private sector, you will notice an increase in the numbers of confirmed cases and the total tests done. Additionally, this report is cumulative, meaning it includes data since March 2020 when we had our first case.
Notably, there were 1,363 tests done today, and 506 came back positive. As those numbers show, the cases continue to increase, and today the leader of the opposition called for the resumption of a unified bipartisan effort to come up with containment strategies.
There is no political lines for COVID. In fact, it is a big deal for us that we make the offer to the Prime Minister and his government again, that we want to help, because this fight for Belize, it's a fight for Belize. Look at how many people, I'm pretty sure the number of deaths now have surpassed any of the worst murderous years in this country. And so it is no longer a time to play politics. It was never a time to play politics, but if that was done in the past, let us put it aside and let us put our shoulders to the wheel. We remain committed to serve on any joint entity with the government to try to solve this problem. The nation needs to know that this is not only a government fight. We need to put down all barriers in the fight against COVID, and one that the people would surely appreciate, in my view, is to see the government and the opposition working together hand in hand.
And while FABA announced the UDP's shadow ministers and senators today, the PUP is expected to unveil its new House Speaker and Senate President on Friday. Former Senator Valerie Woods will be named as Speaker, while Carolyn Trench Sandiford is expected to take up the post of the President of the Senate. Woods will be replacing Laura Tucker-Longsworth, and Trench Sandiford will be replacing Darrell Bradley. They've been complaining from the opposition bench about the need for rural electrification for the better part of a decade. And on Monday, Minister of Public Utilities and Logistics Rodwell Ferguson and Minister of Rural Transformation, Community Development, Labour and Local Government Oscar Rekenya got to show out. It followed a meeting of stakeholders in the UAE-funded Empower project. It's a part of the government of Belize's strategic plan to fulfill its nationwide sustainable strategy of 100% access to modern and affordable electricity coverage. The first step, the planned June 2020 installation of 400 kW of solar, photovoltaic and battery storage, will serve the villages of Indian Creek, Medina Bank and Golden Stream in the Toledo district. The hope then is the eventual achievement of universal energy access. The Empower project is being carried out in partnership with the government of Belize. And finally, tonight, it's a shiny new white chapel for Santa Elena's Cemetery. It was inaugurated this morning by the Council of the Twin Towns and promises to provide a solution for final religious rites carried out during the pandemic. This morning, Meryl Trapp spoke to Cherise Halsal via Zoom and told her that the chapel's ribbon cutting brought them quite a few accolades.
The purpose of the chapel was basically to have a ceremony to pray for our loved ones that have passed away just before they are being laid to rest. Rather than having the service at the church, we do it there in the chapel, especially as we go through COVID-19 crisis. We need to establish protocols. We need to keep social distancing, which is key there. It's open and airflow, so it is safer. It's not in an enclosed area. Basically, it's not only limited to services for our loved ones that have passed away before they are laid to rest, but also it can be used for worship and for praying, whatever the need may be, whatever the pastor or priest may wish, it's open. And I just want to state it clear that it's a non-denominational chapel, so it's open for use by anyone. For now, and for a long period to come, of time to come, we will still have to social distance, even if it's in numbers of 25, numbers of 50, we will still have to social distance, and it gives you that convenience. If you notice, we have the patio in front of the chapel that will allow for the future to put a tent and put chairs and extend it all the way. It depends on the number of people in attendance. We have received many accolades with respect to the chapel, and people are very much grateful for what we have done and the fact that they will be able to enjoy the convenience of this chapel that is in an open area, especially when they need to attend a funeral.
Trapp also told us that the non-denominational chapel can be booked ahead of time by contacting the council. He hopes that during this period it will function not just for funerals but for more general worship as well. And that's all we have for you for our newscast tonight. Thanks for watching with your news. I'm Indira Craig. Remember that you can see a streaming video of this newscast at 7newsbelize.com. Brought to you by Digi for the best postpaid plans in the country. Remember now to wash your hands, wear a mask at all times in public, and to keep your social distance. And remember that curfew starts at 10 p.m. tonight and every night. It goes on till 5 a.m. in the morning. Please join me back here tomorrow at 6. And until then, have a safe and enjoyable night.